old abandoned mansion on Willow Street had always been the source of local legends. Dark rumors circulated through the town about the place. Stories of strange noises, eerie apparitions, and dark history that seems to shroud the building in ominous aura. Maggie, a young and adventurous soul, had heard these tales her whole life. One moonless night, her curiosity got the better of her, and she decides to investigate the mansion. She had been warned by her grandmother never to go near the place, but her unstable curiosity pushed her forward. As she approached the mansion, she noticed the overgrowing vines that seemed to clutch at the decaying walls like skeletal fingers. The front door, creaking in the wind, knocked her inside with a cold and eerie gust. Maggie stepped over the threshold, and as she did, the door slammed shut behind her with a deafening thud. She was now trapped inside. The air was very heavy, with the smell of mildew and decay. Shadows danced ominously on the walls as she explored room by room, each one seemingly colder and more foreboding than the last. In the living room, an ancient, dusty piano sat untouched for years. The room felt strangely oppressive, as if she held up memories of thousands forgotten souls. Maggie's heart raced as she ascended the creaking staircase. The wall seemed to close in on her, and strange whispering voices echoed in her ears. As she reached the top of the stairs, she came across an old nursery, complete with a cracked porcelain doll sitting in a dusty crib. As she approached the doll, it suddenly turned its head, looking its lifeless eyes with Maggie's. She stumbled back, her heart pounding in her chest. The doll had followed her movement, a crooked smile forming on its porcelain lips. Maggie turned and ran, but the whispering grew louder and more intense. The mansion seems to shift and wrap around her, its layout changing as if trying to confuse her. She stumbled into a room filled with antique mirrors. Each one reflected her terrified face, but as she looked closer, she noticed something chilling in her reflection. Her face was twisted in pain, while her real face showed only fear. She heard footsteps approaching from behind, yet she turned. She was alone in the mirror-filled room. Panic set in as she realized she was trapped in a nightmarish maze. As she ventured deeper into the mansion, she reached the basement. The air grew colder, and her breath hung like a ghostly mist. There, in the dim light, she saw something that made her blood run cold. Rows of the dusty jars lined the shelves. Each contains a grotesque, mummified creature. One jar contained a shriveled hand, another an eye that blinked at her. Maggie's heart raced as she realized she was surrounded by the preserved remains of something not quite human. Suddenly, the whispers coalesced into a chorus of anguished voices that seemed to be emanate from the jars themselves.
Release us,
they moaned in unison. Terrified, Maggie stumbled back and tripped over an old chair. She felt a bony hand grabbed her ankle, pulling her closer to the jars. In her panic, she grabbed the jar with the mummified hand and smashed it on the ground. A ghostly figure rose from the shattered jar, and its voice echoed through the basement.
Thank you for releasing me.
It hissed before vanishing into the shadows. Maggie bolted from the basement, raced through every changing mansion, and finally burst out through the front door. Gasping for breath, she looked back at the mansion, which seemed to shimmer with malevolent energy. The legends, she realized, were all too real. She had encountered something beyond her wildest nightmares in the haunted mansion on the Willow Street, and the horrors that lurks within would haunt her for the rest of her days. That was the story of the haunted mansion on the Willow Street. If you enjoyed this creepy story, I would be happy if you subscribe, like the video and share it with a friend. If you want to hear other creepy stories, please share it in the comment section. Thank you and have a beautiful night.